Welcome to Eternal Elements Learning Podcast brought to you by Atyasa Online. These podcasts are a part of the audio certificate programs on Atyasa Online. You're free to take these podcasts on your desired portal also, should you only wish to learn on the go. Thank you so much for engaging on these podcasts, and you can connect with the author on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Hi, this is Niket Karajagi. This is season 6, and we're talking about corporate governance from Eternal Elements brought to you by Atyasa Online. We're nearing the end of corporate governance now. There'll be a couple of more podcasts, but in this podcast, I want to talk about the most critical element of corporate governance, which is about the board committees. I spoke about the board charter in my earlier podcast. These are good practices intended to assist the directors in fulfilling their responsibilities as board members. I also said that in the board charter, these are the roles of the board that gets defined. Once the roles are defined, then the board processes are defined. And the board processes are defined, the board meetings are also defined in terms of the agenda and the interval in which they tend to meet. So what are these board committees? They're formally established in terms of their references. That means they have their roles and accountabilities very clear. The criteria of appointment, the lifespan, and the role and the function are defined by the board charter. They have a clear reporting structure, and they're the most critical aspect of corporate governance. They allow better management of board time, and they also do an in-depth scrutiny of the functioning of the organization. They also have a focused attention because each board member specializes professionally in certain areas or fields of management, law, finance, whatever. A lot of times in organizational behavior, for all you know. And these are the people who actually take the responsibility of ensuring that with the arm's length, they're ensuring that the company does well. They can be statutory as well as non-statutory. If there's an organization which thinks that there could be some critical elements that the board can look after, you can always set up a non-statutory board also. Each director on the committee has a limit in terms of how many committees he can be a member of and how many committees can the person chair across all the organization that the person is a part as a board. That means the board members need not be only on the committee of a particular organization. They can be board members on different organizations which are not linked or interlinked. Disclosure is essential from these board members as to how many companies are they board members of and how many committees across all the companies they're leading as chairpeople. Once this is done and the remuneration committee has appointed them as board of directors, what happens is that they come on board and then their roles and responsibilities are set, they're trained, they're given the idea of what the organization is all about, there's a thorough induction that goes through, and by the way, these board of directors are normally listed on certain regulator sites, websites, or you could have an information from there and then you can decide whom to pick up. They lead various committees. And they should be a part of those committees or lead those committees based on obviously their professional background and their experience. There are 7 critical committees that I will talk about in this podcast. The first, the audit committee, which is the most important committee. They look after the quality and integrity of the accounting process. Are you adhering to the law of the land in terms of the accounting practices? Most of the frauds happen by doctoring of balance sheets and profit and loss accounts. They also look at the reporting practices. They also look at the liaison between the board of directors, the auditors, both external and internal, which means the audit committee primarily is looking after all the financial aspect, the integrity of the financial aspect of the organization. The second most important committee is the shareholders grievance committee. These are committees which look after the grievances of people who have picked up the securities within the organization. That means they have given the money to the organization and they act as custodians of that particular money that comes into the organization. So they have also their kind of stakeholder relation committee. They're talking to the stakeholders, shareholders. They're seeing where is it that certain noises came into the process. And as per the regulations of the stock exchanges and the law of the land, it's their mandate to ensure that those grievances are settled. They also need to attend the AGMs and meet up with the shareholders and be accountable to them. Then there is the Nomination and Remuneration Committee. There is an election to the board. People come on to this. They also determine who should be coming as elected onto the board. The employment, the remuneration of the personnel, the incentives, the entire practices pertaining to the perquisites, everything that you could talk about, the Nomination and Remuneration Committee actually looks after. Why is it important? Because then the remuneration becomes very fair. People are not taking away unjust amount within the organization. They also fix the remuneration of the entrepreneurs. Then you also have a CSR committee or the Corporate Social Responsibility Committee. They formulate and monitor the corporate social responsibility activity. It's important because we live in an ecosystem and we also have to give back to the ecosystem, and therefore the CSR committee becomes extremely important. There are laws that also mandate that organizations need to focus on CSR activities, and certain amount of profits have to be shared with the community, and that's what the CSR committee looks after. There is the Corporate Governance Committee, which develops and recommends the governance policies. You must have a corporate governance committee for sure, because these are the folks who ensure that the governance practices within the organization become industry benchmarks. The next important committee you have is the Risk Management Committee. Their job is to evaluate and get into risk management policy. They look at the strategic risks of the organization. They look at the competition risks that the organization is exposed to. So the competitors, what are they trying to do? They also look at the frauds that can happen, because frauds are big risks within the organization. And they also evaluate and analyze technological risks. So if you look at it, the Risk Management Committee will actually have people from different backgrounds: management background, finance background, legal backgrounds, and technology backgrounds. And then you have the Corporate Compliance Committee, which is the seventh one. And their job is to ensure that compliances are in place. Committees play a very, very crucial role. And because they play a crucial role in the organization, you must ensure that the committee members are in integrity. The board is mandated to govern neutrally, and you do not have fictitious people on the board who will take the company for a ride. Because ultimately, when you take the company for a ride, you're taking the shareholders for a ride, and that's just not done. When the board is strong, the brand is strong. When the board is strong, the organization is strong. When the organization is ethical and strong, the members within the organization are exposed to an environment which is ethically sound and strong. And that's why boards are so important in the organization. Thank you very much. This is Niket Karajagi signing off from Eternal Elements, brought to you by Tessa Online. And I'm going to now, in the next podcast, talk about the elements of good corporate governance. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next podcast.